Have you driven through a neighborhood and have seen homes with broken boards or peeling paint and know that the people inside may survive on small budgets or have physical disabilities and they can't fix up their own homes? Well, today on Austin Faith Dialogue, we'll meet two people who can help. Stay with us.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, my name is Shane Whistler and your host for this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. And with us today we have Jennifer Clark, the coordinator for a project called Hands on Housing, and Mike Murph, who is the chairman of the board that helps Hands on Housing work. And first of all, right off the bat, let us dispel the confusion that sometimes comes up when you have to deal with people thinking about Hands on Housing, a local ministry, and compared to Habitat for Humanity. Can you tell us, Mike, how those are different?
Sure, Shane. Where Habitat is primarily involved in building new houses for disadvantaged people, Hands on Housing is a complementary kind of program that's not related. What we do is renovate older homes, homes that are in bad need of repair for people who can't afford it.
So how does one qualify? Your clients, the folks that you help, Jennifer, how do those people qualify for help from Hands on Housing?
Well, Hands on Housing begins by targeting a neighborhood in Austin, and then we utilize the resources in the area. For instance, the neighborhood associations or businesses and churches that are in direct contact with that targeted area. And they will help us distribute flyers and get the word out about Hands on Housing coming in to offer free home repair. And then we screen our clients based on home ownership. They must own their homes, and our clients are low income and mostly elderly or disabled, but we've also helped lower income families and individuals as well.
Okay. And who is it, Mike, that goes out to help these homes? I understand there are 2 weekends a year that are primary target times to help these folks. And who are these people with hammers and nails or paintbrushes?
Well, to begin with, let's back up just a little bit. Instead of 2 weekends a year, we have 2 events a year. For the groups that work, usually this amounts to 2 weekends per event, sometimes more. A few teams are able to do their project in a single weekend, but that's very few. Most require a couple of weekends. The teams are composed of volunteers from congregations, from businesses, and other organizations across Austin. For example, we've had a team from Austin Board of Realtors. What are other ones, Jennifer?
A recent new team is the Texas Historical Commission, interested in preserving homes in Austin.
Right.
And we've had help from different banks around the area and several congregations.
Yeah.
And you have, as Austin Metropolitan Ministries is represented by a variety of faiths, you've had not just congregation churches, but also other faith groups represented in teams of volunteers, haven't you?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, from, let's see, runs the range from Buddhist groups to the Hindu group from Barsana Dham, the Jewish, let's see, which
Temple Beth Israel.
Temple Beth Israel, and then congregations, Protestant Catholic congregations across the city.
That's great, and I know that's Austin Metropolitan Ministries' focus, and particularly Hands on Housing. What is something we can do together with such a diverse background in faiths that we can do together to make a difference in the community? So what does it look like? You call them teams to go out and work on these homes. How are those formed, and what does perhaps someone listening do to get a team formed in their congregation or business?
Okay. Well, a team is composed of, to begin with, a team leader. Usually assisting the team leader is a recruiter or Yeah, a recruiter, I guess, is the best way to describe that. The teams vary in size from as few as maybe, what, a dozen to sometimes more than 2 dozen, maybe 3 dozen members from that source, that congregation or whatever. And they're made up of, again, volunteers. Some have no real building or construction or skills beyond they know which end of a paintbrush to hold. And some of the people are fairly skilled. They're sometimes folks who make a living as carpenters or electricians or plumbers, but mostly it's people with an interest in helping other people across the city.
Right. Jennifer, could you tell us, you're here for a 1-year term as a VISTA volunteer, and you're the program coordinator for Hands on Housing since August until this coming August. So you've been through one event and seen some folks that were helped. Can you describe, maybe give us an example of someone who's benefited from a team's help?
Sure. Well, this fall we assisted an elderly woman to repair her roof, and actually the team that worked on her house is still working on her house, and they have done a complete renovation. They re-roofed the house, is quite large, and they also did several interior repairs such as sheetrocking and painting the walls and just redoing several rooms inside. They fixed, I believe, the back porch and some of the doors and windows and screens, and just helped her all around. And she just loves it, and she's got a brand new front room that she picked out the paint color. It was bright blue, and she loves it, and she enjoys spending time with the volunteers every time they go over there to assist her, and she's a wonderful client to work with. She's got a lot of spunk and enthusiasm and has some neat stories to share.
Sounds like sometimes the myth in volunteerism is that that we, the volunteers, are coming to deposit some gift to someone else, and that we're going to go and make a difference. And while that may happen, I think what more often happens, something at a deeper level, happens to the volunteer. I was wondering if you could have you had that.
Well, that's exactly it. That's one of the things that makes me most interested in continuing this, is the surprise that I see in the volunteers as to what they're bringing back with them, what they've received from this opportunity. This hands-on housing is it's not exactly about painting and repairing houses. What it's mainly about is putting a face on people in need, and also putting a face on the people who provide the gift. It's about building relationships, personal relationships between the team and our clients. And people often think about this when they're preparing to do the work. They think about, well, okay, I'm going to be painting, or I'm going to be scraping this or repairing this porch, and that's where their focus is. But sooner or later during the day, or over the course of a couple of days, everybody on the team gets to meet the client. That's one of the things that we really encourage, for the client to get to meet all of the team members, and the team members get to meet the client. And I've yet to work for a client, and I've been doing this for 5 years, yet to work for a client who doesn't have a fascinating story about the house that they're living in, the home that they're living in, what's made it a home. The woman that we worked for last fall had lived in this home for 41 years, since she was a kid. Well, fairly young kid anyway. She is one of 7 sisters who had been raised there, and she recounted stories about what it was like to be there a long time ago, and what the neighborhood was like, and that sort of thing. And that just, for my team, when they left, there was a friend there. On that block of East 7th Street, there's a friend that it made a difference to the membership of the team as to how they look at that neighborhood. We can't look at a neighborhood in the same way anymore when we know this person in this home and another person a few blocks away in another home where we've worked on the house, we've been in their house, gotten to know their story. And we've also recounted our stories to them. They want to know who we are. So who are you? And you find out this guy's a might be a bank vice president, and this person here is a TV reporter, and this person over here is an accountant or a manager or who knows what. But as you said, we've made faces, with these people. They're real people now, both client and servers. So that's a neat part of it.
Have you ever found yourself driving back through, maybe a year later, through that neighborhood, or maybe a few months later after you've worked intensely in one neighborhood, and to maybe not visit the person you'd seen before, but to go by and see the home and the project?
Oh,
that you've
sure.
done?
And we not only go by the houses, but Jennifer's kept contact with quite a number of our clients, and so do we. That's one of the things we try to do, is stay in touch with these people and find out. Sometimes there's other needs that we can address. Sometimes especially simply the need of talking with them, letting them know that there are other people across town that care about them.
Right. Well, I know this program we're taping today will be aired just before one of our major spring events for Hands on Housing. Can you tell us what that would look like if people are out in a particular neighborhood? Maybe tell us the neighborhood that we'll be focused on, and what's it going to look like in a couple of weekends with the spring event?
Well, this spring, on April 5th and 6th, we'll be working in part of East Austin that's called the Blackland Anderson neighborhood, and it's east of I-35, between I-35 and Airport, and between Manor Road and Rosewood Avenue. Those are the north and south boundaries. It's quite a larger area this time, and we're a bit more spread out than we have been in the past, but we have quite a few clumps of houses together, and we'll have some teams working on houses next door to each other, or maybe across the street from each other, and there'll just be a lot of people about, and with hammers and nails and paintbrushes, and actually we'll have a few roofing projects going on. That's a great thing to see this time around, because there are so many homes in need of roof repair, and we'll be having at least 2 or 3 crews working on rooftops.
Do you know how many homes will be worked on this time?
We'll be working on about 25 to 30 homes.
Does that mean 25 to 30 teams of volunteers?
Right.
So there's one home as one team?
Correct.
Okay.
Usually, sometimes we'll match teams together, and they'll work together on one house.
Okay.
We've done that a few times when teams want to begin with a program, but they're not experienced, and they're kind of reluctant to take on too much. So we'll say, well, we'll match you up with an experienced team. You can get some pointers on how to organize and how to run the project.
Well, it's maybe too late to get a team together this short notice, but in the fall, there will be what month usually is the time you have the
Usually
event?
October.
October. So when we come back in just a moment, we'll be able to tell you in the fall when we can, when you can call Jennifer at Austin Metropolitan Ministries and the Hands on Housing, and we'll show that number for you in just a moment. But you can call and get your own work team together and go out and make a difference in this neighborhood. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Think of anything. Thank you for staying with us for this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. My name is Shane Whistler, your host for this edition. And with us today we have Mike Murph, who is a volunteer chairman of the board for Hands on Housing, and Jennifer Clark, who is the program coordinator for Hands on Housing, as a VISTA volunteer for this year in Austin. So before we do anything else, I do want people to know that we have events with Hands on Housing spring and fall. So what would someone need to do to get a team together for the fall?
Well, they could call me at Austin Metropolitan Ministries and let me know that they're interested in the program and in getting a team together, and I could provide them with some materials on how to do that. And it doesn't take very long to get a group together. It's just getting the word out and letting people know about the event, and it's just, you know, once the word's out, then usually a lot of people show a lot of interest in the program and are really willing to help.
Have you been asked, or are you available to go to churches or even business meetings? We said we have the whole range, and give some churches might call it a minute for mission, or a business meeting might have a volunteer meeting. So
Sure, I've done a few presentations, and I could do that at any time. Just set up an appointment.
So they can call the number on the screen that we have and ask for you or Hands on Housing and to get set up.
Sure.
That's great. Well, I know there's from an earlier conversation with Jennifer that a mission statement has been drafted. I guess the board members had a hand in doing. Could you tell us maybe the key points of that mission statement for?
Okay, well, we put together a statement so that we could relate to people in a kind of simple way who we are and what we do. And I'll run down it kind of backwards to begin with, because the main point, as I said earlier, about what we do is we build personal relationships across boundaries here in the city, across boundaries that are racial, economic, and geographic. We do that by renovating houses and revitalizing neighborhoods. And by that, I mean that we focus on specific neighborhoods so that we have enough houses within a neighborhood that we've renovated so that the people in the neighborhood can see a difference. It's not just one here or one there, but it's a number of them. That stimulates neighborhood pride. It also, we found, stimulates people who can afford to work on their houses. It's kind of that little boost that helps them decide, if that's going on in these couple of houses down the street, maybe it's time for me to put a coat of paint on my house too, or fix that porch or that sort of thing. We do all this by volunteer teams, and again, these are teams that come from congregations, come from businesses, and other kinds of organizations across the city. And then finally, just to kind of relate who we are and how we fit into Austin Metropolitan Ministries, we point out that we're a program of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, one of how many? A dozen or so different programs.
My wife was just telling me recently about a survey taken across the country of basically middle America, and it said, what do you want? It was the question posed to the middle of America, and the answer was of what do you want? And the answer was more. That's the way we live as a society. Most people have what they want, the basics, and they simply want more of it. And it's exciting to see the development in Austin, but people have the bigger homes or another car. We think about the expansion of Austin, Round Rock, all the surrounding areas, but we don't think about those neighborhoods that have been here so long, that the homes are running down. And it's a reminder to look backwards and to see with the people that have had the longest, living in these neighborhoods the longest, and people have forgotten. Sometimes people are even afraid to drive through that neighborhood just because they don't know those people, and part of your mission is to put faces together. But in this time of people wanting more, I know, Jennifer, you just graduated from college last year, and instead of going out and pursuing your career and following your degree training, you chose to be a VISTA volunteer and were placed with the Hands on Housing. In fact, you chose Hands on Housing. But first of all, how did that happen? How does a college senior, and you can tell us where you went to college, and how did that come about that you arrived at Hands on Housing for a whole year?
Well, I went to Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, about 30 miles north of Austin. I'm originally from New Orleans, though, and so that was a little bit of a distance to travel. But once I arrived there, I really fell in love with Austin and the surrounding area. And actually at Southwestern, I worked on a hands-on housing project with a student organization I was involved in. And I really loved the experience that I had. And as a senior, I was ready to graduate, but not quite sure what the next step would be, whether it be graduate school or looking for that perfect job. And I decided that I wanted to explore the Vista for a year and see what opportunities it would offer me. And since I was involved with hands-on housing already and knew what it did and how good I felt after I was involved, I decided to go in a little bit deeper and actually do some work behind the scenes and try to get more involvement in the program. So
Sounds like you made an excellent choice, and that Austin Metropolitan Ministries is glad to have you.
it's been
very
a lot
glad.
of fun.
Very satisfying work. Well, what was your degree?
I'm sorry, in French and sociology.
Sociology.
But she's been running the program as if it was nonprofit organization management. She's been doing a great job for us.
Good. It's good to know. And with any nonprofit or volunteer organization, sometimes we get even churches, congregation, faiths, communities, when you rely on volunteer help, it can. We've talked about the rewards. It can also be frustrating. The organization and get people there and supplies and to coordinate this on a volunteer level. No one gets fired because we have people, goodness of their own hearts, have decided to volunteer and give their time and talents. And none of us are perfect or the master carpenter or plumber. But despite those frustrations, maybe if you can share a bit about what that's like, being realistic, because it's not all roses. But you've been with this program for 5 years, and you're a professional person, and you have a busy career. What keeps you coming back, Mike?
More than anything else, the relationship that I see being built between our clients and our teams. The realization for the clients that they're people that care, and they're just regular people like them. The realization both for the clients and the teams that we're a lot more alike than we are different. That the differences about where we live and the kind of house that we live in that's just little things. And being a real person and realizing that there are other people that just are practically just like us, that just happen to be in other neighborhoods. Seeing all that realization going on and seeing people become much more comfortable with going into this neighborhood that they thought, wow, that's a rough neighborhood, or I don't know anything about it, or I've heard that might be a difficult place to get into, and then seeing people realize, gee, this is just a neighborhood. And in fact, also hear people say, there's things about this neighborhood that are nicer than mine. People have porches. People walk up and down the street and get to know one another. They know their neighbors better than I know mine. People get together for Saturday afternoon barbecues or that sort of thing. And that's the fun part, is seeing people realize that is the service givers realize that there's more to this neighborhood over in East Austin or wherever it is than meets the eye to begin with. And it's that we're all in this together, and these people are a lot like me. Seeing that realization go on is nice. And also then again seeing the client realize that that the people that are serving them are like them too, just happen to be from a different part of town.
Well, I know you're a member, is it of University United Methodist Church? Is that where you first heard of hands-on housing? And how did you get involved?
I mentioned to somebody that I was looking for somewhere where I could do a little carpentry work or electrical work or that sort of thing, because I've done some renovations of my own houses. And the next thing I know, I was asked to be a team leader. And next thing I know, I wound up being the chairman of this group. But it's been fun, very rewarding.
That's great. Well, Jennifer, have you recruited some college friends to continue their participation?
I have talked to some in Southwestern, and they're really interested in the program. They're not getting involved this time around, but they would like to pursue it eventually. And it's a great project for college students, and there's some UT groups that get involved also. They look for something to do, and this is a great service project opportunity.
Yeah, it's a good way for people to get their feet wet just in doing any kind of volunteer activity and learn that it's rewarding.
Right.
And not nearly as hard as you'd think it would be.
And you don't have to be in the Austin city limits to be the volunteer. You came from Georgetown,
Right.
first of all.
Right,
So don't let that limit people.
exactly.
Because we can learn about Austin so many ways. People like the live music scene. They can go to 6th Street or they can go to the wonderful parks. But there are other neighborhoods that people don't do anything other than drive through. And this provides an opportunity for people to get inside Austin, really, and see another part of the heart of Austin and the people that have been here much longer than most other residents. as
Yeah.
we're
It
growing.
also gives us, one of the things I think about is this is investing in my home. It pulls me deeper. It's kind of like putting roots down even deeper into Austin, and it feels good. And I find people thinking this and saying the same sort of thing.
Are there any other faces or moments of work that come to mind that you particularly remember from either an exciting moment or just a moment that touched you, faces or situations or people that volunteered that you didn't expect would enjoy it and they really did?
I've had an interesting experience. A gentleman that helps us with identifying the homeowners with the neighborhood association decided this time that he would like to get his church involved, and they're directly located in that area, and so it's neat to see that the community itself is definitely pulling together and wanting to help each other within their own community and neighborhoods. And it's not just outsiders that are getting involved, it's, you know, people within and without Austin. So that was really neat to see this time around.
That's great. What did you think of, even though you still have half of a year ahead of you for this program, what do you think about, will it be hard to say goodbye? Will you be ready to pursue graduate school or a career?
It will be hard to say goodbye, but I'm ready to move on. I'm not quite sure where right now, but it will happen eventually. But Hands-On Housing has been a wonderful experience for me, and I've learned so much just from these past 6 months. And it's definitely opened my eyes to the real world, I guess.
We're glad you volunteered and to do this for a year. In just a couple of seconds, Mike, what would you say to get someone motivated to form one of those teams and come out in the fall?
It's easier than you think it might be. It's very scary to get into it, but by the time you show up on that first Saturday morning and get going, you'll find that there's usually more people there than you dreamed. The work flows easier than you thought it might be, and when you're done, you'll feel fantastic.
Great. Those are good words to remember. And we hope that you will call that number and get involved. But we thank you for being with us on this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. My name is Shane Whistler. Until next time, peace be with you.